Yo, what's going on everyone? FreakyDude99 here, and Destiny just dropped its developer insights for Season 21 mid-season weapon tuning. Now, this is pretty exciting as we've been waiting on this, so I'm just going to jump into it and go through it. Hello everyone, Mercule's here with the mid-season 21 weapon tuning preview. This is going to be a smaller mid-season balance pass than usual, in large part due to the substantial changes that are coming in Season 22. We'll talk more about those later, but for now we want to make sure we address some outliers on both ends of the spectrum, so let's get to it. Starting off with weapon archetypes, we got pulse rifles. In general, we feel pulse rifles are in a good place, but pulses with low base aim assist stat values, like the high impact subfamily, feel too forgiving on near misses. We've reduced the size of the auto aim cone at 0 stat, which will noticeably affect pulses with the stat values on the lower end of the scale, with reduced effect at the stat value increases. This in general will be a reduced auto aim angle at 0 aim assist stat by 10%. We also have bows. Lightweight bows have been one of the least used and least effective weapon subfamilies in the game for a long time, and a lot of the feedback around them have centered on how much worse they feel than precision bows at anything outside of close range. To address this, we've substantially increased the range at which they can deal full damage, and we've improved their accuracy a small bit as well. We also have some changes coming to all bows in Season 22, which should improve both how they are affected by reload perks and how well their shots register at longer ranges. So, lightweight bows increase fixed damage fall off start distance from 15 meters to 25 meters, and increase fixed damage fall off end distance from 20 meters to 45 meters. That is big, as well as increase final accuracy by 10%. That is really nice to have, I will say. That's going to make lightweight bows a lot more viable. Next, submachine guns. We've heard a lot of feedback about the new dynamic reticle. While displaying interesting information, was far too cluttered and made it difficult to use the weapon in combat. We made a second pass over the reticle, aiming at reducing both the thickness of the lines and their opacity, which minimizes the clutter when ADS while retaining the ability to show you the effect perks or other actions have on your weapon's accuracy and aim assist. So in general, made improvements to Shiura's Wrath ADS dynamic reticle. And shotguns. Lightweight shotguns have fallen behind on their precision and aggressive counterparts in terms of effectiveness, in large part due to the outermost pellets being spaced so far apart that it can be difficult to land the entire spread outside of point-blank range. To address this, we have reduced their spread angle to constrain the pattern a bit more, which should move them closer to the other top shotgun options for PvP. Lightweight shotguns reduce the spread angle of the outer horizontal pellets by 15%. Pretty nice, we'll see how that actually plays into effect. Moving on, exotic weapons and GRAVITON Lance, which is nice to see that GRAVITON Lance has been returned to glory after a long hiatus. As its current strength, the gun is too easy to use for how rewarding it can be, and the cosmology explosion pushes it too close to primary ammo Cloud Strider for comfort. At the same time, it lags far behind Revision Zero's heavy burst mode and PvE damage, and that just didn't seem fair, so we've given it a substantial buff to its PvE damage, while at the same time reducing the damage the cosmology explosion does to Guardians, and removing the extra aim assist that was granted by the Catalyst. We'll keep an eye on Grav Lance moving forward to see if it requires any further tuning, or whether this helps it settle into a healthy spot in the meta. Increases PvE damage by 67%, reduces the extra aim assist provided by the Catalyst, and reduces the damage dealt by Cosmology Explosion by 40% against players. Damage in PvE is unchanged. Very interesting change. I'm very much looking forward to that damage increase, as it's going to be a lot more viable in PvE content, especially with the cosmology explosion still being the same. Next, No Time to Explain has been somewhat surpassed in effectiveness by the returning champion GRAVITON Lance, but given we are bringing GL down a bit, we want to make sure No Time to Explain couldn't immediately reclaim the pulse rifle throne too easily. We reduced the range stat by 10. Very interesting. And Fighting Lion fixed a bug with the perk application that was preventing Fighting Lion from granting the benefits of its Catalyst. So fixed an issue where the Chimera perk on the Catalyst wasn't applying the buffs to kinetic and power slot weapons. Hey, that's always nice to have bugs fixed. Perks, Gutshot Straight. When we initially made Slick Draw and Gutshot, we wanted to make sure we weren't giving out substantial positive effects that had almost constant uptime for free, and we leaned a little too hard on the penalties in a way that made them often feel more like a punishment than a worthwhile trade-off. As such, we substantially reduced the penalties on each perk, and in the playtests they feel significantly better to use than they did before. Reduced auto-aim penalty by 37.5%, Slick Draw reduced auto-aim penalty by 33%, and Target Lock has had its time in the sun, but the ability to get such a large amount of damage with relatively minimal effort for accurate players has made this perk an overwhelmingly obvious choice in whatever slot it rolls for PvP. As such, we have reduced the maximum damage it can grant in PvP while leaving it unchanged in PvE, so the reduced maximum damage versus players from 40% to 25%, which is massive. And in the future, in Season 22, we have a substantial shakeup coming to the weapons sandbox in the form of Zoom. While we have more details to share closer to release, but we want to briefly touch on what's going to happen at a high level. The initial changes are going to enforce something we're calling range compression, with two main goals. Reduce the variance between the optimal engagement ranges of our mid-range weapons, auto rifles, pulse rifles, and hand cannons, and slightly reduce the average engagement range in Crucible by pulling in the maximum damage fall-off distance of many weapon types. To do this, the highest achievable damage fall-off range on almost all weapon types will be reduced to some extent, with certain weapon types being reduced more than others, and then in many cases the lower edge of their damage fall-off ranges will be coming up. Below you will find a table with the current damage fall-off start distance with and without rangefinder for all primary weapons, and then their values in Season 22 with the new changes. We do not expect these values to be final, but we want to start the mid-range weapons on a more even footing than they are in the live game. Keep in mind, even with their damage fall-off start values being similar, weapons will perform differently once their damage fall-off begins. As they currently do in the live game, rifle-style weapons will experience fall-off more gradually, while handheld ones will experience it more quickly. But the difference should be much less extreme. In addition, we have also hand-tuned a small list of exotics and all special weapons with the intention of keeping them near where they are in the live game, as opposed to allowing them to receive substantial buffs or nerfs with these overarching changes. But we'll share more info on that later. So here we got the ADS damage fall-off start distances, 0 to 100. So at 0, sidearms do 13.20, and at 100 they do 16.80. And it looks like it's going to be buffed up to 18 at the 100 range stat. So SMGs are getting bumped up, auto rifles are getting bumped up. It seems like everything is. Hand cannons, pulse rifles are staying relatively the same. Aggressive hand cannons are getting bumped up, lightweight bows, precision bows, and scout rifles are all staying the same though. Note, auto rifles have the widest variance in available zoom values in the current live game, between 16 and 20 base. For the purposes of the above chart, 16 zoom was used as the base value since it is the most prevalent, but 20 zoom ARs were reaching 41.5 meters at 100 range. Other things to look forward to in Season 22 is hand cannons will be receiving several buffs aimed at improving their usefulness in PvE, including a base reload speed increase and damage increase to minor and major enemies. Sword Guards is getting a substantial rework, tuning to a handful of exotics including a balance pass for Le Monarch and some big buffs to Touch of Malice, and changes to weapon perks including buffs to Bipod, Envious Assassin, and Under Over. That is awesome to see. Of course, hand cannons have been in a tough spot, and it'll be really nice to actually use them again as there's so many great exotics and legendaries out there. Swords getting their rework, it's going to be interesting to see how that actually affects them. And of course, Le Monarch, always interesting as it's a really good weapon right now, but depending on what they do, that can definitely nerf it. And Touch of Malice being usable will be fantastic, as it's a raid weapon, so it should be worthy of the raid exotic title. And then for the weapon perks, Bipod definitely needs a buff. Envious Assassin, I am surprised to see getting a buff, and Under Over definitely needs a buff as well. So, what about the second balance pass? Season 23 work is in full swing here on the weapons team, which means a lot of things are still in flux. We do know for sure that glaives, and yes, the class exotics too, will be getting some substantial tuning. And we're excited to share details of that as we get further along. For now, we can let you know that we're looking at many ways to make them feel better to use without making them annoying to play against. And we're experimenting with things like reducing the delay after firing before you can melee, improving the base projectile speed, and altering how shield energy is granted. If you're a glaive aficionado, we'd be interested to know how these changes strike you, and even if you aren't, we'd still like to hear from you. That is awesome. So, what a great mid-season balance pass. It'll be really interesting to see how these take effect, as well as what the future ones will be, especially when they tell us what Season 22 is going to be like and what the actual balance changes are going to be, because they're very much hyping it up at this point. And thank you everybody so much for watching. I have been FreakyDude99, and if you liked the video, make sure to actually hit a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you like these videos. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out, everyone.